Hello, everyone. Welcome to Diplomatic Briefing. Anti-China politicians in the United States are constantly talking about decoupling from China. Meanwhile, China is accelerating the diversification of its strategic resources. Coupled with Trump's tariff policies, China has consistently criticized the U.S. approach as disrupting global supply chains. Recently, Japanese media have noticed that amid rising tensions, China's imports of energy from the United States have dropped to nearly zero. According to a report by Nikkei Asia on August 26 this July, the total amount of crude oil, liquefied natural gas, and coal that China imported from the United States was less than 1 ton, the lowest level in more than 5 years. The current trade tensions have already prompted China to turn to other suppliers, especially Russia. Research Institute CEIC, citing data from the National Bureau of Statistics, shows that since March this year, China has not imported any liquefied natural gas from the United States. Since June, China has also not imported any crude oil from the United States, and the volume of coal imports, including coal used for steelmaking, has plummeted from about 1.35 million tons in January to less than 1 ton per month since May. The report points out that this is not the first time China has almost completely stopped purchasing American energy products. At the end of 2019, due to Trump's insistence on initiating and continuously escalating the trade war with China during his first term in office, China's imports of crude oil, liquefied natural gas, and coal from the United States dropped to zero. However, after the two countries signed the Phase 1 trade agreement, U.S. export volumes quickly rebounded. Nikkei Asia believes that, unlike in the past, the recent decline may signal a long-term trend, partly due to the renewed trade war initiated by the United States. Previously, in order to counter the so-called fentanyl tariffs imposed by the U.S. on Chinese exports, China began imposing additional tariffs on certain U.S. origin imports starting February 10 this year. This includes a 15% tariff on U.S. origin coal and liquefied natural gas, and a 10% tariff on U.S. origin crude oil, agricultural machinery, large displacement vehicles, and pickup trucks. As the Trump administration later introduced the so-called reciprocal tariffs, China also responded with a series of countermeasures. After that, China and the United States began economic and trade negotiations, entering a state of truce. On August 12, both China and the United States issued a joint statement on the China-US Stockholm economic and trade talks. The U.S. side pledged to continue suspending the implementation of the 24% reciprocal tariffs for 90 days starting from that day, while the Chinese side also promised to continue suspending the implementation of the 25% additional tariffs on U.S. goods and related non-tariff countermeasures for 90 days, starting from the same day. Both sides each retain 10% of the reciprocal tariffs. For example, China's imports of U.S. liquefied natural gas are still subject to a 25% additional tariff, and imports of U.S. crude oil are still subject to a 20% tariff. The United States is the world's largest exporter of liquefied natural gas. According to Reuters estimates, U.S. liquefied natural gas exports in 2024 will reach 86.9 million tons, an increase of 2.8% compared to 2023. China, on the other hand, is the world's largest importer of liquefied natural gas. Data released by the General Administration of Customs shows that in 2023, China's liquefied natural gas imports reached 71.32 million tons. According to data from the General Administration of Customs in 2024, China imported 4.158 million tons of liquefied natural gas from the United States, accounting for 5.4% of total imports during the same period, making the U.S. the fifth largest LNG supplier to China. Since the outbreak of the Russia-Ukraine conflict, fuel prices have soared, prompting China to place greater emphasis on energy security while also ramping up domestic energy production and diversifying overseas procurement. Peng Peng, Secretary General of the China New Energy Power Investment and Financing Alliance, previously stated in an interview with China Energy News that China's natural gas supply channels are diversified and do not rely solely on the United States. According to data from CEIC, China's natural gas production in July this year increased by 7.6% year-on-year, reaching 21.6 billion cubic meters. At the same time, China's pipeline imports of natural gas from markets such as Russia and Central Asia increased by 4.8%, reaching 5.2 million tons. According to the report, although China has not released data on pipeline natural gas imports from individual countries since 2022, research institutions believe that this growth is driven by the Power of Siberia pipeline from Russia. Meanwhile, China is also purchasing more Russian oil. Due to the embargoes imposed by Western countries, Russian oil prices have fallen. In July this year, China's crude oil imports from Russia increased by 16.8% year-on-year. Nikkei Asia mentioned that as the Russia-Ukraine conflict continues, although the United States has already imposed so-called secondary tariffs on India's purchases of Russian oil, it has not yet imposed tariffs on China. Previously, Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Guo Jiakun emphasized that China's position on the Ukraine issue has been consistent and clear. China has always believed that dialogue and negotiation are the only viable solutions to the crisis. China-Russia cooperation is neither aimed at any third party nor influenced by third-party factors. A senior Japanese analyst at Norway's Rystad Energy said that there are widespread concerns that the profit outlook for many new U.S. liquefied natural gas and other development projects may deteriorate, which could lead to delays in final investment decisions. This could affect the supply outlook after 2033, when the new projects currently under construction will be completed one after another. Analysts believe that developing customers such as Japan and South Korea, as well as cultivating new buyers in Southeast Asian countries that currently rely mainly on coal, are both key to ensuring the progress of new U.S. development projects. To briefly summarize, first, why does Trump often say he wants to visit China, as shown by these data? Because from soybeans and corn to energy products, China is a major global buyer. If one supplier doesn't sell, China can buy from another, and it is the relevant U.S. industries that suffer losses. By launching a tariff war, Trump has made China the most difficult opponent for the United States to deal with. Second, ensuring an adequate energy supply is a matter of major national security. The U.S.'s extreme containment of China has prompted China to intensify efforts to diversify its energy imports, reducing the risk that changes in any single region could threaten China's energy security. Third, China is also vigorously developing renewable energy and nuclear power, which is another path toward diversification and has already shown initial results. In conclusion, while anti-China politicians in the U.S. talk about decoupling from China every day, before the U.S. could reduce its dependence on China, China has already begun to de-Americanize its energy supply. Trump's slogans and many of his policies are aimed at bringing manufacturing back to the United States. The European Union now has many protectionist policies also aiming to bring manufacturing back or keep it in Europe. Recently, remarks made by the Hungarian foreign minister and related officials at a forum have drawn the attention of current affairs analysts who believe that although Western politicians have been boasting about bringing manufacturing back home for the past decade, Hungary is one of the few countries that has actually succeeded. The reason is that they chose to cooperate with China, a major manufacturing powerhouse. On August 25th, the Asian Financial Cooperation Summit's Financial Forum opened in Budapest, Hungary. According to the Hungarian national newspaper, Hungarian Foreign Minister Szijjártó stated at the opening ceremony that, due to its geographical location and export-oriented economy, Hungary supports unimpeded global trade. He believes that for European companies to succeed in key areas, cooperation with China is essential. Szijjártó said that the Hungarian economy has already been deeply integrated into the European economy, so the economic neutrality policy pursued by the Hungarian government is of vital importance. Its core is to do everything possible to shield Hungary from the impact of Europe's economic difficulties. He said that in terms of investment, trade relations, and energy security, we are unwilling to take sides between our Eastern and Western partners. We cooperate with both Eastern and Western partners at the same time. Szijjártó stated that Hungary's policy of opening to the East has already achieved remarkable results, with Hungary's trade volume with Eastern countries increasing by about 60%. He said that in 2020, 2023, and 2024, investments from China were the largest. As for Chinese investment in Europe, last year 34% went to Hungary, and the year before that, the proportion was 44%. Szijjártó believes that there are problems with the current EU policy toward China. EU leaders have failed to see the tremendous opportunities for civilized cooperation with China. Instead of basing cooperation on rational grounds, they have politicized and ideologized China-EU relations. He emphasized that if European companies want to succeed in key sectors, cooperation with China is essential. Hungary, as an important meeting point for Eastern and Western enterprises, is the best example of this. Mihaly, the governor of the Hungarian National Bank, also said at the opening ceremony that in an increasingly uncertain global environment, international cooperation has become even more valuable. Because Europe and Asia are closely connected both geographically and economically, the relationship between the two continents is especially important. He pointed out that Hungary is actively leveraging its geographical advantages, seeking to become an economic gateway between Europe and Asia. He also noted that at the turn of the century, Asia accounted for about 26% of the world's GDP, and by 2024, this proportion has risen to 46%. Meanwhile, during the same period, Europe's share dropped from 30% to 21%. Asia now accounts for half of the world's exports and investments, and the engine of future growth has already shifted eastward. He recalled that Hungary launched its Opening to the East policy in 2011, joined the Belt and Road Initiative in 2015, and became a member of the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank in 2017. Jolgo especially emphasized that Hungary's cooperation with China covers areas such as finance, economy, and infrastructure. He gave the example of the Budapest-Belgrade Railway, which connects the Hungarian capital Budapest with the Serbian capital Belgrade, as a key project of the Belt and Road Initiative. Cooperation between Chinese electromagnet suppliers and European automobile companies is also becoming increasingly close. In April this year, the 21st meeting of the China-Hungary Joint Economic Committee was held in Budapest. Ling Ji, Vice Minister of Commerce and Deputy China International Trade Representative, stated that since last year, bilateral trade has rebounded after a decline, and Hungary is the largest investment destination for China among Central and Eastern European countries. Both sides should optimize the structure of bilateral trade, promote cooperation in areas such as information technology, green and low-carbon development, artificial intelligence, and healthcare, ensure the construction and operation of key investment projects, and jointly advance the quality and upgrading of economic and trade cooperation between China and Hungary. The Hungarian side stated that China is an important economic and trade partner for Hungary and the main source of foreign investment. Chinese investment has made a positive contribution to Hungary's economic development and technological progress. Hungary hopes to expand exports of high-quality agricultural products to China and strengthen cooperation in areas such as healthcare, artificial intelligence, and connectivity. They will all provide an open, fair, and convenient business environment for Chinese companies investing in Hungary. In conclusion, major Chinese companies from KATL to BYD and others are all investing and setting up factories in Hungary. Any country that wants to develop its manufacturing industry simply cannot avoid China's supply.